Hello and welcome to the latest Sky Indycar, and I'm delighted to be joined by a first-time race winner, Christian Lundgaard. You might not recognise him because he's got rid of that moustache, and that's courtesy of a bet he had prior to this weekend. But Christian, finally, you're in victory lane. What does that feel like, and how much of a special weekend was it for you in Toronto?
Overall, the weekend was pretty magical. I would say none of us really expected to be on the pole in the first place, and we were able to execute and translate from Saturday to Sunday and get that win from the pole. And honestly, I'm just relieved for the team. The all the performances that we've had has been a little up and down, and we've been on the right momentum. Had some pretty good results, and they were trending the right way, and they ended up getting into victory lane. So that's pretty good.
And you've got a massive technical update heading into this weekend. No moustache. What does that feel like?
I,
Just tell us the story behind that.
yeah, right now I just feel light. But no, me and my best friend, we made a stupid deal back in December last year. Let's grow a mustache and don't shave it until I win a race. And at that point, I was not really sure that we were even gonna win a race. I don't think you could be. But now it's gone, and it took us, I don't know, how long has it been since December? It's been 9 months or something like that. So it's been there for a while, but it's nice to get rid of now.
And I think they gave you a shaver, didn't they, in Victory Lane to get rid
Yeah,
of it. And then
they did. We'd already prearranged that. We had to make sure if we do win, we needed to have that sorted. So it's gone now for both of us. So that's good.
it's not going to be one of those myths where you get rid of the moustache and suddenly all your mythical strengths and speed disappears.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out.
And
There, there's no.
is Victor going to Iowa?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. So was it Victor that you made the bet with?
it is. Yes.
And for those of you that don't or didn't watch the weekend's action, Victor is Christian's best friend, and he came over to watch the race. And there were some wonderful shots of just how emotional he was after the race. And I think, there's a saying in motorsport, you have more bad days than you have good days. The people in the inner circle, they know the pressures, the sweat, the tears, just how difficult it is. And so it was lovely to see that emotion from him.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree. I didn't really understand it at first because I didn't see it until I saw all the videos on social media afterwards. Because obviously he didn't tell me. So once we were on the plane flying home, he showed me a video of him crying in pit lane, and I was like, "What are you doing? Are you 5 years old again?" But to be honest, that's just it's special for me as well because this was his first ever proper race weekend. He came to the 500, but he didn't come for qualifying weekend. So he was only there for the race, just to be there and experience it. He came to Toronto, had the full race weekend experience, and he absolutely loved it. I know he also loved it because it ended well for us. We had a pretty good result, and he's now experienced that as well. But it's what was really special about the weekend was we'd made this bet. I put it on pole, and I won the race, and I got to share it all with him, which to me was extremely special. But also, we got rid of the mustache together, which was kind of cool. The one race weekend he's at is the one we win, which was pretty cool.
Now, just talking about the way it's been trending this year, obviously you had all the technical updates heading into the season and also personnel changes. Stefano Sordo coming in, one test. You've gone well on the road courses, certainly your car. Did you look at Toronto, it being a street track, of course, as one of the weekends that you could target for a good result?
No, I don't think we as a team went into the weekend expecting to be where we were. Obviously, we hope that going into every weekend, but it hasn't necessarily looked like that on any other track this year. And coming there, we knew that last year we had made progress going into Toronto, and I think it was the best result up until then and throughout the season last year. And as we went there this year, we were obviously expecting a great result, but I don't think we were expecting a win or even a pole for that matter. So we kind of clean sheeted it, and none of us really expected that. So Monday morning when I walked into the shop and saw everybody there, everybody was pretty hyped, which was cool.
And looking at the weekend, what was going through your mind when it rained during qualifying? Because the track with the different surfaces and certainly the concrete in the rain, incredibly slippery.
I'm gonna be honest, I was a bit like, this is not gonna be fun. But actually, it was fun. There was a lot more grip than I thought there was going to be. And it's kind of this feeling, if you never, the first lap you'll always do in the wet, especially in a new weekend at a new track and a new venue and these kind of things, you'll go out and you just tiptoe around because you got zero references. And I went out there and I didn't really care. I was like, okay, the worst thing that can happen is the car's in the wall, but I'm at least going to have fun in the meantime.
Yeah, and it looked like that. It's certainly in the Fast Six when everyone put the slicks on. That final sector, well, it's the final sector on track. It's the first sector in terms of the timing loop. When you cross the timing loop and then through the S's onto what is the start and finish straight, it looked so slippery through there.
It was obviously that part of the track being resurfaced from last year. We were expecting it to be smoother even in the dry, but it wasn't. It was actually more bumpy and than it was previous. But in the wet, that new asphalt had no grip. It was super slippery, and it's. But I personally, I would say we had more grip on slicks when it was wet than wet tires. But again, the second qualifying group had the proper wet track. We had a drying track, and it wasn't really that wet at the end. So I didn't get the full wet experience, unfortunately. But at the same time, the conditions were definitely tricky.
And then from qualifying, you make the transition into the race. Obviously, the inclement conditions in the Fast Six meant that there wasn't question marks, but a few people were asking whether or not you'd be able to translate that pace in the dry, because we'd seen the Andretti cars and the Chip Ganassi, and certainly the Arrow McLaren cars very quick in those sort of perfect conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had the same kind of question. Where are we going to be? We knew we had a relatively fast car. We knew we were one of the fastest, but not the fastest. And I personally, I don't really know and understand why we were so fast on Sunday on the race day. But I mean, the people that have seen the race probably already know that we kind of owned that race. We had the pace, we had the upper hand on everybody else. And to be honest, getting the fuel number was actually really easy, even though that's what's his name, Will Power, Marcus Ericsson, they didn't reach the fuel number, and I don't get it. But at the same time, I think everything came together for us that weekend, and even on race day, the second yellow that fell in the middle of the race for the last stint didn't come in our favor, but it ended up coming out in our favor. So we were obviously happy with that, but we did the best job we could, and I think we maximized the potential we had.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to sort of emphasize that. Certainly, I put a tweet out, and for the people that didn't watch the race, your pace was dominant. There just wasn't other cars around you that could sort of replicate that. And I was questioning at the time whether or not Scott McLaughlin was out of place after qualifying because he didn't have the pace in the dry, or Penske looked like they might be struggling. But the pace that you had in the early stages and the restarts, the control around that, and your ability just to sort of drive away was really underpinned during that second set of pit stops. Do you know the game Snakes and Ladders? You know that game? Have you ever
Nope.
played that? So
Nope.
it's a game where sometimes you land on a ladder and you rock it up, and sometimes you land on a snake and you go down. And I reference that quite often in the commentary. And, for the likes of those early stoppers, it looked like Colton Herta, Palou and so forth, that they'd really stolen the march. What was going through your mind? Were you sighted on that? And what were you getting through your ears when you not only had your lead eroded after Grosjean's caution, but then had to come in under the second caution? Were you thinking this is slipping away, or were you still super confident that you were going forward?
I would say there was a point where I got a little nervous. Looking at the dash, okay, I'm P7 now. Where did that come from? But also at the same time, I was expecting to go further back than seventh, because I knew that there were some early takers on the first yellow at Grosjean's incident, and then obviously we had the second incident under the restart. So we were what 5 6 laps later than them on fuel, which was obviously good for us. But I was expecting to go further down. But once the race was green again, we just drove past them and took off.
But it was
And
the,
I mean, personally, I didn't really expect that. You know, I knew that we were quick, but I didn't really expect us to be able to just drive around the faster cars and take off.
there was some proper win it or bin it moves as well, certainly at the restart. And
Yeah.
I think there was one point where you were three abreast at the restart. That
Yeah,
was full send.
yeah, down the back straight was a little hairy, because I was trying to go around the inside of Colton. Colton blocked me, and then I suddenly had Pato on my inside. Then I had to go on the outside of Colton, and we got into turn three side by side, all three of us, which was a little hairy, but we got through it, luckily.
And those were sort of race winning moves looking back on it, although you probably had the pace to pass them further down the line. And then I think it was lap 61 that you passed Alex Palou. He had a little bit of an issue with his front wing, but it didn't look to affect his pace too much. You made easy work, although going around the outside up there is never too easy.
No, turn three is a very interesting corner, because when you're all driving all by yourself and you miss the apex by, I don't know, half a meter, it's super slick and slippery. And then you go around the outside of a car like that, and you're a whole car length or a car length and a half out, and there's plenty of grip, and you're like, well, why can't I find this normally? So it's just super interesting, and I mean, it was a great battle. Alex was very respectful. I tried to squeeze him as much as I could, but I also think he knew that he needed the points, so he wasn't going to fight too hard for it. And I think he realized we were clearly the faster car that day.
Yeah, you very much were. And then it became a fuel save race from sort of 61 to the check-in. How aware were you of some of the struggles? Because you mentioned Marcus Ericsson, Will Power, but, the likes of Pato O'Ward, they were really struggling at that stage.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Obviously, I know that my engineers were expecting and were a little worried, because they knew the fuel number I needed to reach, and I got it pretty easy. And we were still pulling away around 3 to 4 tenths a lap, and they were like, "How's he got so much pace? He's still pulling away." And even rewatching the race, even the commentary are like, "How is he gonna make it?" But we had that all under control, and I think it just helped being the faster car. We were in clean air. We were able to just run our own thing and make sure that we got our fuel number, and the pace was just still strong.
Yeah, it was indeed. Now, what's it feel like to be an IndyCar winner? Have you had a chance to celebrate? Obviously, you're back home now, and we spoke before we went live. You've got an 8 9 hour drive to Iowa after this conversation.
Yeah, I'm sitting on my couch, which is always great. And I spoke to my dad Monday morning after the race. I was laying here on the couch. He calls me and he says, "How does it feel?" I mean, feels pretty normal. The couch feels normal. I feel normal. It's the same. It's the same thing. The only thing that does feel different is obviously I'm a little lightweight now without the stash, but we might have to grow it back out.
Yeah, and it's a big weekend heading into Iowa now, isn't it? Not only for you personally, but for Hy-Vee, so your title sponsor of your car. And last year's event was so special. It's your birthday weekend as well, and I think Ed
Yep.
Sheeran will be playing.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty interesting weekend. I'm excited. Last year we didn't have the fastest car at Iowa, but the race one on Saturday last year we were pretty competitive. We weren't winning competitive, but we were there. We were in the midfield. We were up where it was fun to fight, and just on the sort of cut of P8, P9, and we hadn't been there anywhere in the season. So at that point, so we were making progress, and we when we had our tests earlier this season at Iowa, we found a lot of pace, and I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to be the fastest car, but we're definitely going to be in the fight for something fun on race day for sure.
And let's just talk about that. This is an oval, but it's a very, very different type of oval to the last one we were on, the Super Speedway at Indianapolis, where it's no secret that the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan squad had their challenges. Is there a bit of a hangover heading into Iowa because of that, or is this track, the nature of it, the length of it, just so different that it's just a clean sheet of paper now?
I mean, the struggles that we have on the super speedways, in my opinion, is just pure speed from the car. Obviously, the short ovals, we're still on the road course aero package sort of half, where the super speedways is obviously a completely different aero spec. And I think as a team, we just struggle to get and extract team speed out of the car. Where here, I think it's less critical, really, in terms of just pure car speed. Where I think here is more setup and pure driver that can make the difference.
So a lot of momentum in terms of confidence. We hope that it goes your way. Just looking past Iowa, there's back to the Indianapolis Speedway, the road course. You've got races at Laguna. If you look at your qualifying, I think you're 6th at Barber, 7th at Road America, 5th at Mid-Ohio, 3 top 5s this year, 6 top 10s, 2 poles, 1 win. You know, you're going to be looking at those events, those road course events, and thinking these are 2 events that I really feel that I can challenge at now.
Yeah, I think the Indy GP is the obvious one. Obviously, we had our pole there earlier this season, and we've just always been competitive there. We've just had a good package, a good car, and we've been able to pull it all together. And now having the benefit of having 2 races there, obviously, is in our favor, because it's a bit like a double header at Iowa, where it's at double points really, because it's 2 races. So we do have a good chance of scoring a lot of points, and some of the later road courses that's going to be here, Portland, Laguna, but even Nashville. I think we're kind of set for a good end of the season, because if you look at it, this season compared to last season, it's been trending the same way. We struggle in the beginning, we just keep getting better. And now we have a win just past the sort of mid-season, and we're going to races that we've been strong at last year. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to win another race this year.
Fantastic stuff, Christian. You've been a wonderful guest on our Sky IndyCar coverage here. You can go and wake Victor up, have a coffee, drive carefully 8-9 hours to Iowa. And for you fans, you can look at how Christian gets on with his Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan squad this weekend. Both races, it's a doubleheader from Iowa, live for you on Sky Sports, and that's Saturday and Sunday.